What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Got a very special episode. We've got the Bleacher Blums guys on the pod, Geoff Blum and David Tuttle. They were on the show last year. They're here because the Yankees are about to play the Astros right out of the All-Star break. Geoff is color commentator for the Astros, so obviously we know where his biases lie. But Tuttle, on the other hand, he's going to be the referee in this argument, and I'm not even going to say it's going to be an argument because we actually get compliments. Yeah, we get comments that we are pretty unbiased Yankees fans as far as Yankees fans come. So
are we?
Anyway, welcome to the show, guys. So happy to have you.
It's good to be on, and obviously I always make fun when we open up our podcast. I always say I'm Geoff Blum, commentator for everybody, America's favorite team, the Houston Astros. But I know it carries a little extra special weight when it's on, a Yankee podcast. So it's good to be on with you guys again. Always a blast, and I do appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to have the conversation and talk very good baseball between two very good teams right now.
Well, that's the thing about it. It's like the Astros just won't freaking go away. They're trying to go to their, I believe it's 6th straight championship series. So yeah, they, obviously they're the most hated team in baseball. And to be more hated than the Yankees, you got to do something extra bad to do that. When the Yankees are the likable one in the matchup, it is, you've done something wrong. But they're just a really good team.
I'm curious about that, actually, and the hatred towards the team. I mean, we feel it different than I think a lot of other folks feel it when they go across sports. And obviously, there are a lot of different players on the team. Mm-hmm. There are a good amount of the same players. Alex Bregman is still there, and his face bothers me. But a lot of these guys were not on that 17 team. So I'm curious, what's the reception across the league? Not speaking just from a fan base that feels robbed, not only in multiple ways, but yeah, I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I would feel robbed too if it was my only opportunity in the World Series. Slight dig there, just saying. But no, it's, what's been interesting for me is because, the last 2 years with the COVID year and then 2021 shutting down travel. So I haven't been on the road in 2 years. Everything I've heard and seen has been through a monitor or a headphone set. And, I didn't know how bad it was until we got on the road. And granted, there's going to be some different reactions in different cities. They're going to be a little more subdued in some of the places that we do go to. But when you do get to Yankee Stadium, that's where we all anticipated all of the hate and the vitriol to show up. And it was definitely there. So it's a visceral experience to sit there, broadcast for a team that everybody hates going in, and then you actually see and hear it up close. So it's unique. I do appreciate the fact that most fan bases, when we do go through there and watch the Astros, that it is for Altuve, it is for Alex Bregman, it is for Yuli Gurriel. Those are the three guys in the lineup from that 2017 World Series championship team. And then you see the guys like Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez get up there, and people just kind of sit back, watch, and enjoy the ball game. So I do appreciate the fact that fans are aware enough of that. But it's amazing to me to see that and hear the reaction and not get caught up in it when you're trying to call a game, because it's coming through our field mics, it's coming through our headsets, and then watching those guys perform under those circumstances is probably the most impressive thing for me. But yeah, dude, that hate is real. I know we'll dig into it a little bit more, but getting there and experiencing it now firsthand is a completely different animal.
And I said I would be the referee, but let me just chime in and say, look, the Yankees and the Astros, both because they're winning franchises, and you can debate about, the Yankees 2001-5 run is kind of the last time they've done it, but they're a hated franchise because they've had a lot of success, ever since the boss and Billy Martin and, before that, right? So it's good to be on the side of being hated, and I think the Astros, to your point, looking for their 6th ALCS in a row, are now kind of into that realm being hated. So, we can debate some of the logistics or specifics, but I think you guys are both in a good position as, part of the fan bases for teams that are hated because they're respected.
That's true. It's, I think the Jordan Bulls were in the same similar vein here. You just, the envy, I think, comes across because you're sick of seeing it if you're not a fan base. What I do appreciate here is with what the Astros have brought recently because of all of this is the rivalry between the two teams is heated also. It's not just the fan base, it's on the field. You can feel the tension when they're playing. The Yankees team, you can tell that it's different. It's a little extra. And, I'm sure there's some residual effect from 17, but there's also, it's just a damn good team. And, when you're looking at the teams that were across baseball right now, it's been the Red Sox forever, but it's absolutely 1,000% the Astros. And even I'd put the Red Sox even a distant, probably fourth behind the Blue Jays and the Tampa Rays. And that goes because of the competition and what's happened in recent history as well. I know the Red Sox obviously knocked the Yankees out, but the tension between the two teams it hasn't felt like it's been there over the years. And I think that the Astros has really overshadowed that.
Could you do me a favor real quick? Just just continuing on that same thread, I'm glad that you said that, because, when you're down in Houston and you recognize the Yankees have, rivals all over the country, and obviously mainstream media, or whatever you want to call it, wants to create that East Coast bias between the Yankees, Red Sox, and just promote that rivalry to no end. I love the fact that you guys watch and love the Yankees and actually experience the fact that there is that true rivalry between the Astros and Yankees. That makes me feel good. It makes me, almost validate what we've been talking about on our broadcast, because we feel it down here in Houston when those guys play. I agree with you in the sense that, it is a rivalry in the sense that they're two good teams going against each other, but I also believe it because social media goes absolutely bonkers when these two teams play. I can feel it on my end, but dig a little bit deeper and explain, at least because we're going to borrow some of this audio probably to put on our podcast, but to go in a little more depth and explain. We know 2017 because of the World Series and obviously Rob Manfred finding that there was a cheating scandal in there. I'm not going to deny that, but just dig a little bit deeper on Altuve and that hatred for the Houston Astros, just so we have an understanding, but maybe give us a little more of an articulate, better understanding on why this rivalry is so good.
Andrew, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I've actually... so I talked to Andy Martino. I don't know if you guys know who Andy Martino is. He wrote a book about the Astros cheating scandal. And he it was actually went in depth about all of the major players in that. Beltran, Alex Cora, AJ Hinch, all the way down the line through to the present-day Astros. And he was pretty confident in his findings that Altuve was not wearing a buzzer in the 2019 ALCS when he was, saying keep my shirt on. Mm-hmm. But as you guys know, that doesn't mean shit on Twitter. Okay,
dude, nothing does. That's so true.
And so, fans and the perception, I think, among a lot of casual fans, even non-biased fans of baseball, are that Altuve was doing something shady there. And then you go, it's just like any conspiracy theory. There's rabbit holes and rabbit holes and rabbit holes, and perception is almost more powerful than actual facts. And so the perception is that that Altuve was doing something cheating against Aroldis Chapman and hit that home run, and that sent the Astros to the World Series. So the perception is that not only were the Astros found cheating in 17 and found cheating in 18, but then they were cheating in 19 as well and screwed the Yankees twice. So that is why Jose Altuve, that is one major reason why Jose Altuve is public enemy number one in the Bronx. The number two reason is because he's still really good and he still murders the Yankees. And every time they play him, he hits a crushing home run. And I still don't understand why anyone would throw him a first pitch strike. I don't care. It should be 9 feet out of the strike zone, because if it's near the strike zone, he's going to hit it. So I, on the one hand, put the whole, perception of him on over here, and then also acknowledge he's still really just good at baseball.
I'll go the other way, on a different side of things. The reason why I think a lot of this, for me personally, I can only speak to the way I feel personally, I think here, because my perception has changed a bit, and my perspective has changed a little bit in how I treat these guys. I think the reaction to the scandal also was a big reason why I feel the way I feel towards people. I actually don't have as much disdain towards Altuve, because I think that when this all came up, he took a step back. He did not come out in front. Whereas Correa, who I who I actually became a fan of during 17 when they're talking about him learning English just to talk to the media in the major leagues. Like the story, I get chills thinking about a kid growing up in Puerto Rico learning English so that he can speak to the media members when he becomes a Major League Baseball player. It's an amazing story. He proposed to his girlfriend, I think, right when they won the World Series. Like there were a lot of likable things about him. And then he got out in front of this thing and was just smug as all hell. And so was Alex Bregman. Smug. That's the one word that I describe. And when I see someone who's smug about something that is clearly obvious, that clearly happened, and shows no remorse for a particular thing, that bothers me. And I didn't see that from Altuve, actually. Altuve, I think, tried to stay back from it as much as possible. And he's just a damn good baseball player all around. So I actually have a lot of respect for him. And when I look at the guys, I squarely look at Bregman and Correa are the two guys that I look at the most throughout that whole thing. That bothered me the most. But the fact that they're good is just the reason why I think this thing stays
fuel.
up.
It's
fuel.
They're still good. They're still really
because they're
good.
still good, and it pisses people off.
And they're still beating you. They're throwing no hitters against you. It's like it's not only you can't seem to get the Yankees can't seem to get the upper hand on the Astros, and that's also frustrating.
There's a common theme here, which is funny because the common theme is what I said before, and you mentioned the Bulls is like they're good, and so that puts them into this space. Now, how they handle it, and you pointed that out, Scott, but it's like. We said this about Pettit, right? When Pettit's like, oh, yeah, I had an injury, and so I had to take – and everybody's forgot about him. He's a really good Christian guy. He was one of the best pitchers that the Yankees ever had in playoff situations, and nobody gives a shit that he did steroids. Whereas Roger Clemens is like, I never did it. Barry Bonds is like, I never did it, and I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And, so –
this is a forgiving nation. We like the comeback
you're
story.
right.
I totally agree. So I think the way you articulated that is good. I mean, I
completely agree.
Yeah. So, Blum, I wanted to hear your thoughts too.
Oh, go ahead, Blum.
Oh no, go ahead. I've got one more question after this, but I do want to talk about that series in New York and then the upcoming game because this is just fascinating baseball for me.
So one last thing on what we were just talking about. Scott and I always joke on the show that the Yankees need to hire us as just like third-party PR people because we will just tell the players exactly what to say that will just get the common sense to be on their side. Yeah, the common sense thing. If you stink, stand in front of your locker and admit that you stink and say, I'm going to try and get better and move on. Or like how when IKF, Kiner Falefa, came to the Yankees, he did like the tour de force of like getting on the Yankees fan side. He posted a picture of himself in the bleachers as a kid, as a bleacher creature. It's like, okay, beautiful.
One,
Yankees fan growing up. Got it.
Got you.
Jose Trevino, same thing. My dad loved the Yankees. So it's like all of these
Cole.
things that just cut straight. Yeah, Garrett Cole holding up the sign. All of these things cut straight to the hearts of Yankees fans, and they're so obvious on what they are. And I think my point there was...
But they work every single time.
They work every time. It's that Pettit hand up, I was wrong, whereas Clemens, like, I never did it. Two totally different things. So with Correa and the other players who said, no, we never cheated or we never did this, it's like, well, there's mountain of evidence that you did. So at a
the
certain
narrative
point,
with Pettit is hilarious because it's like HGH because he's a team guy. He was just trying to get back to the team.
Right.
He was just trying to get back to the team, trying to get healthy to help the team out. Had nothing to do with individual performance.
No.
He felt so guilty that he was injured that he just had to get back faster to help the team.
want my
That's
guys
the
getting
perception
back.
a lot of times with Andy Pettit. He can do no wrong. The man could do no wrong.
But wasn't that brilliant? I mean, that was brilliant.
It was genius, but it was
I mean,
also
how do you
genuine.
not steal that idea if you're somebody else that jacks up something to it? I did it for the
Because
team,
it was
man.
Here's the
genuine.
roadmap.
potentially...
It came from the right place. That's the
Yeah.
difference. Whereas these other guys are just so
And
arrogant.
Pettit's a little more believable,
and
yeah.
smug. Like that's not something that comes across well in any fan base at all.
Do you know who
No.
potentially handled steroids the worst out of anyone ever? Is Ryan Braun.
Ryan Braun, yeah.
Oh my dude! Don't even get me started.
He
He buried
just
the guy that
guy.
got tested.
Awful.
But I was on the Diamondbacks in 2011 when we went to the playoffs, and that dude single-handedly destroyed our playoffs because he hit 900 with like 5 home runs in a 4-game series. It was unbelievable. And then we find out he did juice and then just buried everybody in the process. Unbelievably bad.
Yeah. that was a scumbag.
I didn't
way
mean to
handle
take
it,
us
for
off
sure.
topic back to steroids. I got some
Oh,
thoughts
that's
on
good.
that too, but
We
don't
could
have
do
to go that
hours
route.
of podcasts on steroids.
We could. I mean,
True.
Hours on steroids.
Blum and I played in that era, and I do think it's funny because I know Ryan. I also know his agent, who both of them very, very arrogant people, and so it's funny how even their perception in the locker room and the perception that they give off when you're having a conversation with them like we are now, and Blum already brought it up. I mean, Pettit and Posada I played against way back when. And, Pettit was, he's a very Christian guy, family guy, very soft-spoken. I mean, all those things were actually part of who he is. And to your point, I mean, I think that's if there's a roadmap to redemption, that's it. And maybe you guys should get hired by the Yankees and, kind of utilize that roadmap so that they can have, better
We've been
PR.
making our pitch for like a decade, and they haven't.
I say
hired
we
us yet.
keep pushing, man. You
Keep
never
the
know.
podcast going. You never know. That's what we do. We're like in year three of our
year 8.
podcast.
We're in year
well, that's
8.
I'm not
Still
sure.
haven't
I'm
got
not sure I
hired.
want to work for them though, because then we can't talk about the things that we actually want to talk about.
Yeah, we'd get hired and fired in a week.
I can attest to that fact that you do have to be very careful about what you say about the organization you're working for.
Yeah.
Hey, one last question on all of this. You guys have been great about it, but I've got a question because you mentioned Beltran already. Cam Maben was on that 2017 Astros team.
Yeah.
Marwin Gonzalez was on that team. How do you have two broadcasters on the Yes Network who are on the 17 team and arguably the leader of the sign-stealing scandal, Carlos Beltran, in your booth? And then how does that dynamic work, and how did that go over when you guys first heard they were going to be there? And has anything changed?
Do you remember what I said 2 minutes ago? Carlos Beltran wanted to sign with the Yankees, and then he signed with the Mets because he couldn't sign with the Yankees. Always been a Yankees fan. Boom. We love him. Cameron Maben, just a nice guy. Compliments everybody. It's like
I think a lot of people don't remember that he was on that team.
also,
to be
yeah.
honest.
Also, they weren't the best players on the team that were really beating you, and that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is that
Carlos Beltran was the performance-enhancing drug of that team.
Oh, no doubt
And
about
then-
it. Carlos
and then-
Beltran was on the broadcast recently, the most recent one for when they played Houston, because the Yes Network likes to pair up former players. I'm like, what are we doing here? First of all, he's not very good. He still needs to get his legs.
He's bad.
And two, you're hung out to dry at that point. Like, what are you supposed to
He
say?
sounded very sad about the whole thing.
There's nothing to say.
Because obviously his
smack
career
in the middle of it.
He lost his managerial job, probably never going to get another managerial job. Maybe this won't let him get into the Hall of Fame, and he's clearly a Hall of Fame player.
Yes.
So this is I don't think it's a stretch to say.
the Hall of Fame.
You don't think so?
No.
What do you guys think?
I think he could get into the Hall of Fame. He's not going to be a first, 5 ballot type guy, but I think eventually you get to the peripherals and you do find out as a switch hitter he's one of the greatest switch hitters to ever play the game. But at the same time, like you guys are talking about, when that report came out against the Astros, you're going, damn, that sucks. But at the same time, when Manfred steps up and says, I'm not going to name any players, and then he names Carlos Beltran in that whole thing. Yeah. To be honest, it pissed me off because that went against his word. And this was right around that time, like you guys are talking about, that Carlos Beltran gets hired as the New York Mets manager. And I'm going, sweet. Finally, this guy's going to get an opportunity. He knows the game extremely well, having been around him. He's played the game extremely well. I think his numbers are great. But I also thought he'd be a great influence on that Mets organization. And here he is getting named. So that's part of what pissed me off. And I think you're right in the sense that this may be as good as it gets for him being a broadcaster for the Yankees, because nothing else is going to come of this because of that being named in that report.
It's unfortunate for him. Yeah. Because he retired, so he technically wasn't part of the players union anymore.
It still frustrates me that he was a player at the time the report.
They should have been able to protect him after the fact. Like, whatever you did as a player, he really got screwed in the whole thing. And he's such a nice, I don't know him, but like everyone says, he's such a nice guy. And he's
a really good dude.
Such a good person that, like, I think he is super sad about the whole thing. And so from like a person listening to him call the Astros Yankees series, it's just like really came across.
Yeah, it's too bad.
He needs reps in the booth. Also, he's just
okay. Yeah, I haven't actually, to be honest, I haven't heard him in the booth, so I
a lot of generalities. Just like speaks to us like we're kindergartners, and it's frustrating sometimes.
You know what's
I don't
crazy?
understand why you guys think that he's not going to get a job at some point. AJ Hinch literally turned around immediately and got a.
But
a
AJ
managerial
Hinch
job.
had a resume of winning a World Series. Alex Cora had a resume of winning a World Series.
So you think
Carlos
that
Beltran was already. You had to take a shot on Carlos Beltran.
Yes.
And now you'd have to take another shot on him, but he's got black marks on his resume.
I'm with Andrew on that one. I think the previous track record for AJ and Alex is what got them the jobs and allowed them to come back in the game.
Cora was never. I mean, they never wanted to get rid of him in the first place.
No.
Right.
But
Well,
okay.
I'm not going to shock anyone right here, but the fan base. I'll speak on behalf of the fan base because of my contractual issues. But if AJ Hinch was offered the chance to come back, the fan base here would have taken him back in a heartbeat.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well, this is my thing. I'm an analogy person, right? This is Deshaun Watson. Does Deshaun Watson give you a better
Why
chance
you got to keep
win?
digging on the Houston,
Hey,
man?
I'm just saying. Does Deshaun Watson give you a better chance to win a Super Bowl? Yep. All right, we're going to guarantee him $200 million, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may. And I think it's really interesting because the managers that have a World Series on their resume. I also think English is a second language for Carlos. I mean, yeah, he grew up in Puerto Rico and he's been in the big leagues for 20 years, but I think it's got to be challenging. I mean, I've found that
for sure.
I've been doing this podcast for 3 years, and I don't know if I've gotten any better, but it certainly gets more comfortable. And to your point, maybe. I just follow you, Blummer. You know that. But anyway,
Oh, man,
I mean,
put it
I
on
think
me.
you guys understand that like you said, maybe his sea legs are going to come as he just expands his thought more, because maybe he thinks about it in a more simplistic way when he's trying to articulate it in English. I mean, I don't know, but it does take repetitions. And
He's
practice.
got
I agree.
so much knowledge, because there were he has flashes where he's like super interesting
when he gets
And-
detailed, yeah.
And like John Flaherty, who's also on the Yes Network, former catcher, was talking, basically hitting philosophy and what you're thinking in an at bat, and he went on like a 2-minute run where I was like, holy shit, like that's really interesting stuff. But then it goes back to like the very general points of, well, that double play really hurt you. Oh, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but you're right. The information's in that skull, because I actually went over there and talked to him. I was asking him about some of the relievers. I was asking him about some of the swing thoughts and decisions of some of the Yankees. And all of a sudden, and it was great because David Cohn was in there too. So you had the pitcher-hitter aspect of the whole thing. And I got stuck in there for about 15, 20 minutes when we're all trying to get ready for the game. But it was amazing. It's in there. Hopefully he does figure out a way to let that out, because it would be a lot of fun to hear him talk about some of those situations and give you guys a little more to work with.
When he's teed up, he's good. When he's teed up for something specific, he's
Okay.
good. When I was watching, I've mentioned this on the podcast like 15 times recently, but I was listening to Clemens when he was talking with Kay and A-Rod on Sunday night a couple weeks ago, and man, like Clemens was going deep and very, very, very entertaining about some of the things that he was talking about, because he was talking baseball, just like pure baseball, unfiltered. Roger Clemens talking baseball, and that's fun to listen to. If Beltran is teed up in that way, the guy's got an encyclopedia in there. You can tell by the way he played and how he studied. I mean, he orchestrated that thing because he knew what to look for. When you're thinking about the things, it's when you actually take a step back from what it was and think about like why he was looking at this, his ability to pick up things that the pitcher is doing or doing. And Clemens spoke on this too, about how he would play the game on the other side and try to hide it and like fake people out. And it's fascinating. To me, it's fascinating on how fast a batter can pick up a slight little reaction in mid, during the mechanics, during the actual windup. So I don't disagree. He needs to get his sea legs on the color commentator part where he's carrying a Tigers Yankees 5-0 game in the fifth.
To me, it's like poker though, and that's what I learned too. I mean, Blummer has millions of stories, and it's not good to out all these guys. Eduardo Perez had that reputation. And he would sit there and he's like, and it was like a game. There was two dudes at the end of the dugout, whether they were going to pinch it or not. They're like, I got him. 2 innings later, they got him. Look, watch when he closes his front foot and his hands hang a little bit lower. It's a changeup. Those guys did that stuff all the time. And so then, we can add in video and videography. But these guys were so good even without the videography, and they had so much knowledge and so much experience that game within the game, as you start playing high levels, why these guys cover their mouth and why they're going to a nonverbal, non-physical signal, because after a while you can just pick it up, and it's totally the game within the game.
I want to ask you guys a question about that because you're both former players. And maybe you won't be able to answer this, but why is it baseball players are obsessed with trying to figure out those little ins and outs and trying to figure out a pitcher's talent? Is it purely just to get an advantage over the pitcher who already has an advantage over you? Or is it because baseball is just naturally a slow sport, so you've got a lot of downtime to do all this stuff? Like in football, you don't have time. There's the 400-pound guy running at me. Like I just have to react. So like, what is it?
Well, I think in all sports, there's tells either way. In basketball, if a guy, James Harden's step back, he's going to set you up and you know how to defend that. Or you've got, like you said, if there's a running back that makes a certain move, you anticipate that by watching film. So they, those sports are a little more, preparation aspect, watching the video, getting these signs. And if you see that in gameplay, then react accordingly. Whereas in baseball, you can kind of feel the momentum of the game and feel the synergy of the whole thing because you have the time to be able to do that, and you've got 4 or 5 guys on a bench who are 120 feet away from watching what this guy's doing. But I really do believe, and I know that it's even more paramount these days because guys are throwing consistently 95 to 100 miles an hour. Everything is spin rates. Everything is max effort. There's nobody that really slows up and really tries to finesse the game like a Tom Glavine or a Greg Maddux. These guys are coming at
Nestor
you.
Cortez, baby.
Nestor Cortez.
Well, Nestor Cortez, but he's done a great job of manipulating the baseball, creating a different delivery, and you can't pick up on the tell. That kind of goes to what Roger Clemens was saying, and that was kind of my thing through this whole sign stealing scandal is, ultimately the pitcher can change signs, change delivery, try and keep the hitter off balance. But, if you keep going to the same sign, that's on you if you're getting picked. But the idea of the hitter is to try and find a way to anticipate what's coming, because when I dig into the box, I have tendencies, I have experience, and hopefully I can pick up on your delivery and pick up the spin out of your hand. That's why pitchers are trying to be so deceptive and tunnel. They're trying to release the ball out of the same spot. They're trying to just tweak the arm a little bit and create the spin out of the same delivery. But if I see you come set and your hand is right here on a fastball, but it's right here on a changeup, I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm looking for any advantage because you number one, hold the baseball and make the decision on what you're coming at me with. And you also have nasty stuff. Hitters don't go up there looking for nasty. I go up there looking for, dear God, hang me a curveball. Dear God, leave a fastball out over the plate so I can get to it. Because if you actually execute your pitch, and Trevor Bauer, did this in spring training where he said, here, I'm going to throw a fastball. Threw it as hard as he wanted, put it where he wanted, and still got guys out. So that's where, if I can anticipate. And, going back to the Astros issue, I think the biggest thing, everybody's going, oh, the average got better. The slugging percentage got better. For me, and maybe Tuttle can talk to this a little bit, if I know what's coming and I see the spin and I'm ready for it in a 2-strike count and I see it break off the plate, guess what? I'm not going to chase it. And that's probably the biggest thing that came out of that whole sign stealing scandal is that you actually were able to not strike out frequently.
Yeah, I had 2 things on that, and Blum, you touched on it. I think baseball, not because it's slow, but I think because it's so explosive and fast, meaning as a hitter, if you go up there and you dig in, as a pitcher standing out there, I know that you're looking for the ball middle in, and if I can locate, to Blum's point about Trevor Bauer, if I can locate, then I can get you out. If I can throw my sinker on the lower half and you're flying open, I know I can get you to roll over on that ball. Now, whether I hit my spot or not is a whole different story, which we see mistakes. But I think baseball, different than like football where they come in the hole and maybe they go left every time and then one time they go right, you're like, oh yeah, he changed his tendency. In baseball, if you're a hitter and you go up there and it's a 4-pitch pitcher, every time a guy comes in, Blummer's like, all right, this guy's got a 2.75 ERA, he's got 4 pitches, he's got a cutter, a sinker, a 4-seamer, and a changeup and a slider. And you can't go into the box thinking this guy's got all 5 pitches going today. You have to go in there and go, all right, I'd like to get ahead. I'm going to take a strike. If I can get him to 2-0 or 2-1, I can look for that sinker or that fastball middle away. And then now you've just narrowed your chances. And so I think the sign stealing in baseball, legally or illegally, is just that, it's just a little more advantage. Because you see guys, you can tell when guys know what pitch is coming, they pop it up to the shortstop, they snap their bat over their knee, and they throw themselves around. They're like, that was my one chance. And I think that makes it different subtly than most other sports.
I'm going to transition us into modern day baseball, into today's game, because this is like Yankees Astros here. We just found some poetry in baseball, so that's an amazing thing to do. You talking about the hitting the spots here, and our guy, not really, but on our team, Joey Gallo, is a guy who is
we've talked about him before on our podcast.
He's
legendary.
I believe that here's my belief. My belief is that Joey Gallo swings the bat in the exact same spot every single time. And if a home run is hit, the pitcher made a mistake and hit his bat. That's my belief. And our big thing is, like, he even made comments earlier in the season and saying, this is how I got here. This is who I am. This is, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change what got me to the major leagues. And in fact, we're looking at it, we're like, you're a Major League Baseball player. You're a Major League hitter. Make an adjustment. To, at this point, stay in the league. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting to an embarrassing level what he's doing, because it's like he's going out and just chopping the wood at the exact same spot, just keeping the same exact thing. And by some miracles, a pitcher throws a ball in over the plate in the middle of the zone instead of up or down and away, and it makes contact with his bat, and he gets lucky and hits one out once a month.
Yeah, you guys can steal it.
What are the thoughts about the adjustments?
Well, I've watched Joey Gallo since he was a Ranger facing the Astros, and they've thrown 9,000 fastballs at the top of the zone that he will never touch and never has. It's amazing. So to your point, that swing is on the same plane the exact same time every single day in the same play. And you guys can steal this term. I call it porn hacking. That's all he is. He's just one big porn hack the entire time. And you know what's crazy? Oh man, this guy, he is extremely frustrating. But isn't the game of baseball, when you talk about the game of baseball and you talk to every pitcher, every hitter, every position player, what do they say that baseball is? It's a game of adjustments, because it's constantly that movement of me changing my pitch to get you out until you hit that pitch. Then I will work off of that pitch to try and find another way to get you out. But Joey Gallo, since he's been in the big leagues, has not moved off how to get him out. It has been a consistent book. It's dusty, and it says the same thing every single day when you go and get him out. Amazing stat about Joey Gallo that is absolutely mind-blowing to me is that he has one sacrifice fly in his career. Unbelievable.
No.
Yeah, you'd have to look it up. I
that
guarantee it
can't be real, but I believe you.
It's unbelievable. I would go back, if it's not one, it's 5 or under. I guarantee it.
I mean,
that's insane.
Whether it's 1 or 5, the point stands. He's got 2.
He's got 2
in his entire
career.
No.
That's I'm looking at Baseball Reference right now. He's got 1 sacrifice hit and 2 sacrifice flies. He hit one with the Yankees last year. Can't say that I remember it. In his entire career, 2,600 plate appearances.
That just means the ball.
I hate.
That means the ball goes over the fence. Don't worry about it. It goes out. No.
Right, yeah.
It either goes out or he misses it.
He does have 169 home runs.
Yeah, there you go. So.
Yeah, I mean, like that type.
Flies.
He drives me nuts watching him play, and that's why I don't understand the disdain some fans have when they watch IKF play. He's a breath of fresh air. He moves runners. He gets on base. He makes the plays. He has not made some simple plays at short. That's where he has some blunders, but he makes the incredible plays too. He's gonna clean that up. He's going to clean it up. He's going to be a better defensive shortstop in the second half. But my God, does he fit that lineup? And you know what? It's a little bit taking a page out of what the Astros have done so well over the years. The Red Sox too, when they won the championship. Bat to ball. They move runners. Yeah. They don't strike out. They get on base. They do the things that you need to do to win games. And that hasn't changed in a long time. Like, I understand that the strategy in baseball as a whole is different today. But the winning strategy actually isn't that different. And you look at what Gleyber Torres has done. We've been talking about this. Speaking of Cam Maben, he talks about the middle of the field approach ad nauseum at the broadcast, but he's not wrong. When Gleyber started hitting line drives again, the ball started flying out of the park. It's not a coincidence. He's not trying to lift the ball and get it out. He's just trying to make good contact, go up the middle of the field, and oh, by the way, it's going out of the park. So there's a clear this team needed that. This team needed a guy like IKF and a couple other pieces to balance out that lineup so that when October comes and we're going up against a guy like Justin Verlander, at least we have a fighting chance to put the ball in play and see what happens.
And I think oh, sorry, Blummer. I just want to say pitching and defense. You mentioned how it hasn't changed. Blum and I talk about this all the time. This is kind of like most games, right? You have the season and then you have the playoffs. The playoffs is still pitching, defense, and not striking out. I mean, Verlander's going to give up 0, 1, or 2 runs, right? Garrett Cole's going to give up 0, 1, or 2 runs. Who wins that day 2-1, 1-0 based on like the way the ball bounces, but you have to have that strategy in place. Sorry, Blummer. And I know you guys want to get to the series coming up after the All-Star game too.
Well, that's what I was gonna use that to lead into it, because that was one of the things in watching that series when the Astros went through Yankee Stadium, and they've played 5 games already. But it was really interesting to me because I agree with you that I think this Yankees team is different in the sense that they are trying to make more contact. Rizzo is a freak with how he handles the strike zone. I know the average isn't there. He's gotten some timely hits, but dude, that guy puts together an absolutely frustrating at bat. Fouling off pitches, laying off pitches, forcing deep counts, and that affects starting pitchers. And then you start to get to some of these bullpens around the league, and that's when you start going to do a lot of damage. But going back to Kiner Falefa and Trevino, for that matter, is that yes, they put together good at bats and they're having career years in Yankee Stadium. But the thing for me is the defense has gotten better behind the pitching staff.
Trevino's not just gotten better. It's Trevino's the best framer in baseball.
Yankees have the most defensive runs saved. I think they're up there at the top of the league now. It's crazy how fast it happened.
And that's the number that jumped for me, because watching, obviously we've had years where we've had Garrett Cole, Verlander, Greinke, some of the, Lance McCullers Jr., Dallas Keuchel doesn't win a Cy Young if they don't play defense behind him. Right. That's where
he doesn't win a Cy Young if he doesn't pitch 4 times against the Yankees that year.
Yeah, they had a hard time with the Sox.
They didn't score off.
Couldn't elevate on him. But, the defense is what's going to enhance your pitching staff. So those 2 guys, I think, made the offense a little more dynamic and useful and set up for some of the big boys in that lineup. And then the defense has been incredible. Trevino's been a lot of fun to watch him kind of grow up and work with that pitching staff. But the bullpen for the Yankees, what I saw in those 4 or 5 games against the Astros, the bullpen, it might be the linchpin of what they're able to go out there and do, because you guys are going to be able to slug. You're going to get the Giancarlo 3-run home run. You're going to get the Judge, 3-run double, or the late inning home run like we saw in that series. But the bullpen was absolutely shut down, and that was a series that we didn't even see Aroldis Chapman in.
Well, that's the thing about the Yankees bullpen. What we thought were going to be their top 2 guys, Chapman and Johnny Loaizaga, have not been there all year. Clay Holmes has been the best closer in the league. Michael King has been a weapon, and even guys like Wandy Peralta have stepped up huge for that bullpen.
You guys don't want Gary Sanchez back?
We didn't do it. We have a rule.
We made a vow on this show.
We have a rule on the podcast now.
We have a rule. We cannot say Gary Sanchez's name anymore.
I didn't know, so there you go.
That's a curse word.
No, about Trevino, I was like, Gary Sanchez.
Now that you've brought him up. No, it was addition by subtraction. I mean, it was for sure. Gary Sanchez has been driving me insane for the past 2 to 3 years. Insane. With the types of things that he does. But
I'm good at throwing us off topic. You mentioned the bullpen. Well, I did tune into that series. I like to listen to Blum every once in a while, and I was like, who are these? Who's this Clay Holmes guy? 98, and I'm like,
every year
it was like strike.
Power sinker.
Like, damn.
98 sinker. Yeah.
He hit 101. On the gun one time this year with a sinker, which maybe it was a hot gun, but I don't care. That's still probably 98.
Still, yeah.
And the gun's hotter than it used to be, but it doesn't matter. Every guy's throwing 96 and 97. They're locating their ball. You talked about trying to get an edge earlier. This is why you need to get an edge, because if you go up against Clay Holmes with no plan, guess what? you're going to be back in the dugout.
The weird thing about that series is the Yankees actually scored off the Houston bullpen, and the Houston bullpen had been pretty damn good all season. Mm-hmm. They didn't touch any of the starting pitchers in that series. And
the Astros bullpen pitched completely scared. They pitched 13 innings in that series in New York, 13 walks. That killed them.
Yeah, and to get out of there with a split was because the starting pitching was so good. Obviously, the no-hitter, but even on the Friday night game, I don't think they allowed a hit after like the second inning in that game or something like that. and obviously almost no hit them in the Sunday game until late in that game. So yeah, it was.
How does that affect you guys when you're watching this game? Because you guys know this roster, you know these guys' tendencies as well as anybody. The two games that stood out for me for the Astros against the Yankees, or if I was a Yankee fan, would be the Urquidy game because he throws a lot of fastballs and a lot of strikes, and then Luis Garcia in Minute Maid Park, who doesn't pitch well there, and he was able to shut down. That both those guys were able to shut down the offense. That really surprised me, to be honest with you.
The offense has been really, really good all season. Like if you just look at the overall numbers, it's been really, really good. Yeah. And especially over the past month, the numbers are excellent. But there's been a handful of blowout games that they've had, and then a handful of games where they look awful. I'm not even just talking about getting no hit, but 2 hits, 1 run, or something like that. So it's kind of been a lot of highs and low swings over the past month, which make the overall numbers look pretty good because you score 14 runs in a game and then 2 runs. Well, your average runs per game is still pretty good, but you look at it, it's like, well, you didn't need 14 runs to beat the Pirates.
Those are stat patterns, man.
That's right.
Yeah, Joey Gallo on Sunday, getting back to Joey Gallo, hit a 2-run home run in the 8th inning of a game they were already winning like 11-1. It's like, great, thanks, Joey. Take that into the All-Star break.
Well,
it doesn't
I
count.
think this belies something, though, that I've always thought about baseball, and now more as a fan watching it, is the best players are the ones that do that get, I mean, we saw Carpenter get, 2-3-run homers, from, like, you're going to see his numbers at the end of the year. He was hitting 180. Now he's hitting 230. He's going to be hitting 270. But those are the guys that end up helping your team because they gain confidence in games like that, like against the Pirates when you boat race them 13-1 and you don't need it. But those are the professional hitters, like you said. Gallo's, he's going to run into one every once in a while, maybe against a lesser team. But guys like Carpenter are the guys that scare me the most when I think about the Yankees lineup because you're going to be careful with Judge. You're going to be careful with, Stanton. But here's a guy who was an all-star. And, yeah, he seems past his prime, but his stash looks pretty damn good. And he's a professional hitter, man.
He's the best hitter on the planet. He's actually untouchable right now. Juan Soto for Matt Carpenter. It's not even a conversation.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, there you go. I love that.
He's hitting 350 with I think 12 home runs now. He's insane. He's insane.
You're being serious.
Found whatever
he's got
fountain
like a
of youth
2,000 OPS, man.
Yeah. No, he's got 12 home runs in less plate appearances than he hit 12 home runs in the past 3 seasons.
But I'm telling you,
if you want to look at a funny stat line comparison on like a baseball reference, is just go pull up Joey Gallo and Matt Carpenter for this year and see what it looks like. It's pretty funny.
That would be funny. But I mean, Blum and I've talked about this a bunch on our podcast, and just to reiterate, those are the guys. They get him as a glue guy. AB Booney knows him. Like, hey, we'll get this veteran clubhouse presence, and now all of a sudden, that's what flips it. Yes, you got, the catchers and the defense and all one coming along. I mean, I started looking at this little league field that my daughter plays soccer next to, and it's like 210 down the line at a little league field. And then you go to Boston and you see it's like 302, and then you look at that right field porch or the Crawford boxes and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. I get to face Giancarlo Stanton, and it's like 330, in the gap where all he has to do is like extend his arms. Like it's going to be an offensive juggernaut, and you add Carpenter into the mix, and the Yankees and the Astros are both, you see why they're formidable teams.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Yankees right-handed bats can make those adjustments for the most part, and hit the short porch and just pepper that thing, and actually, I mean, that's what Judge's big advantage was after 16 when he was at a 50% strikeout clip. His bat is coming through the zone for such an extended period of time now. His mistakes are flying out of the park in right field. But
no, that's a great point, and he's strong enough to be able to do that too.
All right, so let's really dig in a little bit to the series because the doubleheader's coming up. You guys saw them split, obviously, in Yankee Stadium. So what do we think? Do you think the bullpen for the Astros is going to pitch less scared this time, or what? I mean, what do we see coming up?
I hate that it's a doubleheader because
me too.
Because these two teams do not need to be playing a double. Like, I don't know. The Yankees can play a doubleheader against the Orioles, and I have no clue who the Astros are playing in the weekend right after, but they can play a doubleheader against them. Let the Astros and the Yankees play Thursday and Friday, because it's bullshit that they've got to come out of the All-Star break into a doubleheader in which you're probably going to split because both teams are just managing their pitching workload, and that's how doubleheaders in the middle of the season go. Maybe I'm going to be wrong, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, I hope you're wrong in the sense that it's actually a good game, a good couple of games, because I'm with you 100%. This might be the one time that you see Yankee fans and Astro fans actually agree, because you're forcing them to watch two great teams play. I don't want to say they're going to be mediocre games, but it kind of has that sensation going into it. They're just trying to find a way to get through the day. I don't want to see that. I want to see these two guys get mad at each other and start beating the hell out of each other and play some good baseball and have some big moments like they've had in the past. So I'm with you in that. It's terrible that they're forcing the Yankees to come to Houston. I know they're home games for the Astros, but there had to be a better spot to be able to do this. I would have extended the season, like you're saying, to force them to be able to play maybe a couple more meaningful games on back-to-back nights as opposed to back-to-back games in the same day. It's not right, because the Astros have to play 2 at home, get on a plane and take a 5-hour flight to Seattle, which is going to suck.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going to see the Yankees do the same thing. They're going to play 2 in Houston and then have to take a flight in the middle of the night after a 5:30 game, I think it is, that second game, and go and lose an hour and go back to Baltimore. It's not fair for anybody. It's not fair for baseball. It's not fair for the fans.
Coming off of vacation too. I mean, they're coming off the All-Star break, so you
Guys
you
are
add
coming
that
back
into
from
the
the
mix.
Caribbean.
Yeah, these
Yeah,
guys are all,
seriously, you're right.
you know, they're wiping the sleep out of their eyes for that game 1, and then they gotta play 2 on that day against their most heated rival. So I think breaking down this series could go a number of different ways here, but I'm more interested also to hear what you guys think is coming up at the deadline. What's in the air? What are the Astros? Where are they going to be targeting? What are you guys expecting them to be going after? Because obviously they're a very good team. 4 games back in the loss column right now from the Yankees, who have been the storyline of the total wins. I mean, the Astros are right there. So this trade deadline, Andrew and I have called it Brian Cashman's most important of his career, because the Yankees have a team where they can absolutely win, and they, in my opinion, they have to overcompensate for certain things and go after this thing 1,000%. So I'm curious as to what's in the air in Houston and what they're looking to do.
Yeah, when I get done answering this question, I'll ask you guys the same thing. But the first thing is, I would trade my entire AAA Space Cowboy lineup and team for Juan Soto right now. Being able to have him for another 2-3 years, even if it's arbitration at $25 million a year, I'm going to bring that guy over and put him. Shoot, I don't know. I'd let him play center field if he wanted to.
God, I cannot take Juan Soto in that lineup.
Could you imagine?
Handle it.
Yeah,
That would be insane.
No.
So
I disagree.
He's also going to be doing the thing where he's like leaning up again. That's going to really piss me off if I see him doing that towards the Yankees.
I
pitcher
like
in the
Juan
playoffs.
Soto. I don't want to have to hate Juan Soto.
I know.
That's going to really bother me.
And all the experience he had hitting bombs in the World Series against the Astros, he's going to be perfectly comfortable hitting them up onto the train track. That's obviously, I don't see that happening. It would be a miracle, but I know he's on the market, which is fascinating to me, and I can't wait to see if he actually goes somewhere. But to that point, yes, I think the Astros could use a left-handed bat. I think they could use a left-handed hitting outfielder or first baseman. As crazy as that sounds, with Yuli Gurriel won the batting championship last year, but has not been the same guy, not the same RBI producer. So a left-handed bat that could play a corner outfield position and maybe be able to play a little bit of first base. A guy that keeps popping up in my mind is a guy like Josh Bell for the Nationals that plays first base and can switch hit. And then in the bullpen, if I can find a premier right-handed arm, I would take it. But if I can find a left-handed reliever that is better than some of my right-handed options for the Astros, I would go get that guy, because right now the Astros are relying on Phil Maton, Hector Neris, Rafael Montero, Stanek, and some of these guys. Those are their high-leverage guys later in the game, but I think they need to get a very good left-handed reliever that can come in some key situations, maybe in that 6th, 7th inning, to put away some tough left-handed hitting in some of these lineups, and they would be a little bit better as far as the bullpen's concerned. But I like the idea that the rotation is in good shape, and rumor has it, I don't know how true it is, but rumor has it Lance McCullers Jr. is going to make it back, hopefully by September, and I don't know how they're going to use him, if he's going to be a rotation guy or a bullpen guy.
It's interesting because the Yankees have some similar needs. If you had asked us this question 3 or 4 weeks ago, we would have said the number one need is you need to find someone to play better than Joey Gallo, and that wouldn't be very hard. I know a lot of Yankee fans hope Andrew Benintendi comes over, would fit this lineup very well.
Nice.
Can play left field, doesn't strike out a whole lot, would be a really versatile outfielder
He's not vaccinated.
I know he's not vaccinated.
So he can't go play up in Toronto. Just saying.
Can't play in Toronto. We thought Judge wasn't going to be able to play in Toronto, and he ended up getting. I don't know.
I think if Benintendi ends up being a Yankee, he'll figure it out.
I was joking.
But
Those two big guys, Stanton and Judge, can make do some influence on that.
But
one
now,
down, the other.
Yeah, if he shows up with a needle, you're like, yes, sir.
Even though outfield is definitely still a priority, they actually need starting pitching. The depth in the starting pitching, their rotation was so good through the first 2+ months of the season, and it's really hit a lot of speed bumps with injuries to Severino, and they're going to have to manage guys like Nestor Cortez and probably even Jamison Tyon's innings because they're coming off seasons in which they have not thrown this many innings. Tyon's had a really weird first half. He was so good through the end of May, and he's been so bad since the beginning of June. So they need another starting pitcher. They need a starting pitcher.
It's funny.
I agree. I think
ahead, Scott.
Benintendi does fit the lineup really well. He's another guy that just, I think, helps turn the lineup over. Josh Bell's interesting for you guys, too, because of the first base need. A lot of Yankees fans have said Josh Bell, but I don't see it because of the first base. I mean, there's nowhere for him to play with Rizzo, and then LeMahieu's sliding all over the place. So I think Benintendi's a good fit there. I could see an Ian Happ coming over, even David Peralta from Arizona.
Ooh.
Just like a steady left-handed bat that's going to come
Those
in.
are good
You know
bats.
what you get. He's a good clubhouse guy. Like I could see one of those guys slotting in, because although Matt Carpenter has been amazing, you cannot rely on 36-year-old Matt Carpenter, who came out of the Texas AAA swinging a bat like 2015 Matt Carpenter or whatever the last time he was good. So I don't think you can depend on that, and I think Cashman does have to overcompensate. And if we're looking at his tendencies, looking for a starting pitching who is controlled after this year, because Tyon's coming up on a contract after this year, and that's when you look at his previous moves. Usually, the guys that he goes after are controlled for a year or 2 years after that. So it's not just a move for now, but it's also a move for the future. Tuttle, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say just with Blum, yeah. I mean, that's why Soto would be so appealing, right? Because he's under control. So anybody that gets him is in an ideal situation.
One of the many reasons why.
Well,
That's the reason.
aside from being one of the best players in baseball. What I was going to say, I don't have a lot of skin in the game. It's interesting as an outsider looking at teams like, I mean, the teams that your team needs, as these are the two best teams in baseball, on paper essentially, are exactly what they have. Like Brantley's shoulder's a little wonky, so what do we need? Kind of a left-handed hitting outfit. I mean, you're just filling these holes. You mentioned Gallo. Gallo's a left-handed hitting or swinging and missing, whatever he is.
Yeah.
Put in a left-hander like Benintendi.
Maybe he's actually right-handed. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, there you go. Scott just solved the problem.
We figured him out.
He's from the wrong side of the plate. Anyway, but Gurriel, right? Last year he was the batting champ, and he's always been a solid run producer. He's not this year. So it is funny that these teams are just going to reload. And so when you guys talk about the trade deadline, it's hilarious, because really what you're talking about is just strengthening those what are already kind of strengths,
Yeah,
right?
that's the idea, though.
Yeah, no,
that's you're fighting for the top spot in the division. In the league, both of these teams. I guess really the idea would be play one extra home game in the ALCS if you meet up with the team.
Yep.
And you've got to identify where your weaknesses are, where your potential weaknesses are, and solidify them. You cannot let both of these teams, especially the Yankees, cannot let this trade deadline go by and not address your needs. This is the best team you've had in so long. It's the most complete team you've had in so long. If they do not address all of their needs, that's a huge failure. I don't care about.
And you don't know what's going to happen with this Judge contract. You do not know what's going to happen.
I wanted to, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask Tuttle something, because.
Well, wait. Let me just finish that thought, because look what the Rams did, right? And that's what that was just finishing Scott's point, which is this is your time. Do you go all in? Yes, we're going to get OBJ. We're going to get this guy. We're going to win the Super Bowl, and then we'll figure it out after. You know. And I think that's where the Yankees are right now. No, so go ahead.
I completely agree. These aren't playoff contenders. These are World Series championship contender teams, and that's why you think about enhancing them, and you have to make that drastic change. But I'm in complete agreement with you guys. The uncertainty with Judge, but as well-rounded as that Yankee team has finally become, you've got to make that push.
So Tuttle, I know you're a Giants fan. I have a coworker who's a big Giants fan, and he theorizes that if Judge hits the free agent market, the Giants are going to be heavy in on Aaron Judge. Do you see that happening if he does become a free agent?
I could see it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he went to Fresno State. He's a California guy. I mean, they talk about that all the time. It's a really good baseball market. The challenge is, and Blum and I have, we go back and forth with the Giants. The Giants kind of did what we're talking about, I feel like, last year. Kapler is not my favorite choice for manager. He's a little unorthodox, but I think they caught lightning in a bottle last year, right? Buster Posey as the captain, and they had all this great stuff going on. And, they just kind of had this great core of veterans with some young guys. But when you stand on the mound, and this is how I evaluate a lot of it, and you look at the Yankees lineup, you're like, oh shit. When you stand on the mound and you look at the Astros lineup, there are really not a lot of holes. You're nervous about facing, Yordan Alvarez, and so you're careful with him, and then Gurriel comes up and hits one by your ear hole. I mean, with the Giants, they don't have that. So they need to do something. It's not a rebuild, but this year I don't see them. It's going to be a stretch for them to make the playoffs, even though they're playing well, but they have the Dodgers and the Padres to contend with, just like the American League East is a challenge. And I don't see why. If Judge didn't take it, we talked about this on our podcast a couple days ago that hasn't been released yet. I mean, Soto turning down 15 years at 440. That he's basically saying, I don't want to fucking play here. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's almost $500 million. You said no to $500 million.
Interpret that? Like whether it's a rebuild or not. So Judge turning down what he did, I know it's arbitration, and he just, he stopped the negotiation. These guys are definitely testing the market. It'll be interesting to see what the Players Association says about these guys. Like those are the kind of contracts you want to take. Now I know he's, still under control, so that's a different deal as well. But anyway, long answer to, I do see the Giants in on Judge. They do need their next captain, their next kind of foundational player, and the Giants don't have that. I mean, they have Evan Longoria, Brandon Belt, Crawford's got to be on his way out, and he's hitting like 230. He's a superstar shortstop, but he's been there for 14, 15 years, got 3 championships already. I mean, why not, right? So I think Judge would be a great guy to go after. Maybe they'll be in the Soto market for all I know. I mean, I have no idea, but they do need a foundational player, and those guys that hit the free agent market, the Giants should pursue if they're not.
It would just be such a disaster if the Yankees let Judge walk. It's just,
yeah, that would be disappointing.
After how this season has gone, I mean, he's moved to center field. He's their he's their starting center. He's their starting center fielder, and move. So yeah, it would just
bring Brett Gardner back and let the Giants have Aaron Judge and Sanchez maybe. No, I'm kidding.
But that's why I think that's why the Benintendi call is actually great. He's maybe a younger, better Gardner. He puts together these unbelievable at bats, hits 300, plays a great left field. Peralta is actually when you said
fit.
Yeah, but David Peralta, I like
Scott's
that
been
one.
on Peralta.
I've been wearing the
like
draft for
him.
Peralta for a couple of years now.
I'm actually going to steal that idea.
Yeah, and it's like the Diamondbacks are definitely going to be.
Well, he's walking now. He's a free agent too. He's walking into next year.
Yep.
All right,
Gentlemen,
guys.
This is a lot of fun.
This is awesome. We got to wrap it up, but so much fun. I hope if there is I hope that the Yankees and the Astros do play in the playoffs. I actually do hope that, because it'd just be freaking awesome, and we'll have to talk before that. But really appreciate you guys coming on. A lot of fun to talk to you.
Yeah, in all of Manfred's lunacy, even he wants the Astros and Yankees to play, because it's great. It's great TV. It's great drama. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys being open and honest, and it's always great having the conversation, because your baseball knowledge is extremely good. And who knows, we may be doing this again later in the season in October. Thanks for having us on, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Be
thanks
good.
a bunch, guys. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.